Esteemed Khenpo Sodargye Rinpoche, Honorable Dean Q Huikwan of Guandong Yuexiu Academy, distinguished organizers, honored guests, and all fellow practitioners with auspicious connections, good morning, everyone. A very warm welcome to this live lecture on the spirit of science and the wisdom of Buddhism. I am host for today, the Secretary General of the Guangdong Maritime Silk Road Cultural Promotion Association. It is a great honor for me to serve as the host for such a distinguished lecture today. Thank you all very much. Before we begin this important lecture, please, we have already learned through a video about Khenpo Sodargye Rinpoche. Here, I would like to once again introduce the esteemed Khenpo Sodargye to everyone. Khenpo is widely recognized as a great master of our time. He is thoroughly versed in both the exoteric and esoteric teachings. The teachings he imparts cover both Han and Tibetan Buddhist scriptures. His footsteps in spreading the Dharma have reached all corners of the world. He has translated a vast number of Tibetan Buddhist texts into Chinese. He has also translated some Chinese classics into Tibetan. He has made great efforts to promote the inheritance and development of traditional culture. It is truly an honor to be able to invite someone as wise and compassionate as Khenpo Sodargye to give us a teaching. We feel deeply honored and delighted. Next, before Khenpo officially begins his lecture, let us invite a representative of the event organizers to give a brief speech. Please welcome Dean Q Huikwan of Guangdong Yuexiu Academy. We kindly request your presence to come forward now. Your cooperation is greatly appreciated.
Respected Khenpo Sodargye, our deeply sincere greetings. Tashida Leg. Dear esteemed guests, a very good morning to you all. We are profoundly grateful for everyone's accumulated merit and virtue. It is truly thanks to the exceptionally favorable conditions, meticulously coming together from all directions and sides, that this gathering has been made possible. We are able to respectfully invite the esteemed Khenpo Sodargye to be here with us. As one of the principal organizers of this significant lecture, we, the esteemed Yuexiu Academy, feel profoundly honored and privileged to be here today. We are particularly thrilled that the great and revered master will impart his profound wisdom and deliver an enlightening teaching on how the rigorous spirit of scientific inquiry can be thoughtfully integrated into the timeless wisdom of Buddhism, thus bringing about significant and meaningful positive development within society. With our utmost sincerity and profound gratitude, let us now, at this very moment, once again warmly invite the esteemed Khenpo Sodargye, welcoming him with a resounding round of applause from all of us present. Wishing the lecture a complete success and auspiciousness.
Thank you to Dean Q for the opening remarks and welcome Khenpo.
May everything truly be auspicious for everyone present here today. Just a moment ago, I noticed that the esteemed host and the distinguished Dean Q were both elegantly dressed in pristine white, while I myself am conspicuously wearing a vibrant red, and many of our dedicated staff members are also prominently wearing a calm blue. Everyone here is wearing clothes of different colors. What does this signify? It shows that in our current era, there is also a kind of culture, a multiculturalism. There is also a distinct kind of thematic culture that exists. What kind of thematic culture is it? It includes a culture of scientific spirit, as well as a culture of Buddhist wisdom, and also a rich tapestry of other traditional and modern cultures from around the world. So everyone present here today is truly a dedicated promoter, a diligent inheritor, and an enthusiastic disseminator of culture. The important topic I wish to discuss with you all today: the scientific spirit and Buddhist wisdom. At first glance, this topic seems rather profound. Is it only people who specialize in science or Buddhist studies who can understand it? Otherwise, since we do not fully understand the intricacies of science, and we are not particularly clear about the profound aspects of Buddhism either, will we be unable to grasp such content? I think whether it's Buddhist studies or science, if the meaning is extremely profound, it does require specialized knowledge. But all of us here, after all, we live in such a remarkably advanced scientific era. And at the same time, we are all still deeply connected to our rich traditional culture, especially the profound wisdom of Buddhism. Therefore, in this meaningful setting today, communicating with everyone should be quite relaxed and at ease. Once, the renowned scientist Albert Einstein said something truly profound that everyone should be intimately familiar with and understand deeply. In his later years, after deep contemplation, he said, "Science without religion is like a helpless cripple, and religion without science is like a blind person wandering aimlessly." What he meant was that if it's science, it must be supported by religion. Otherwise, it simply won't be able to go very far indeed. We all know that modern science has only truly developed for a relatively few hundred years up to today, while organized religion has existed in human history for many thousands of years. So if we genuinely want to truly tap into the profound wisdom of all humanity, we must truly rely on religious thought. Without religious thought, if we solely rely on scientific theories, scientific knowledge, and scientific methods alone, then we risk losing a crucial dimension of understanding. I'm afraid that the most mysterious aspects of humanity, spiritually, subjectively, and also in terms of consciousness in a way, many forms of knowledge simply cannot be uncovered or understood. Of course, in our current era, religion also profoundly needs to be validated by rigorous science. If any particular religion cannot adequately keep up with the current scientific age, if it cannot truly withstand thorough scientific scrutiny, then that religion probably also cannot clearly and accurately perceive the true and intricate nature of the world. Therefore, as a Buddhist or indeed any religious person, one must thoughtfully and actively adapt their perspectives and beliefs to align with the established findings and ongoing advancements of science. I have always consistently and firmly held this view. If we, as individuals who identify as religious people, frequently use the findings of scientists or established scientific theories and principles to validate the teachings of Buddhism or to validate the fundamental tenets of our own respective religions, in fact, from an ultimate perspective, this is not ideal. Actually, Buddhism does not need to be proven by science at all because what scientists observe and discover, the conclusions they ultimately reach, are limited in their overall scope. Therefore, using their limited wisdom and understanding to verify the wisdom of Buddhism is indeed somewhat lacking. Some people might ask, as a Buddhist, why do you often quote scientists, including prominent figures such as Einstein, Newton, and Russell, as well as carefully considering the works of many contemporary scientists? Why do you frequently find it necessary to quote them? Sometimes I truly have no other viable choice. But why is that the case exactly? Because people nowadays all truly believe in science. Therefore, if we do not effectively use the language of scientists, they often think that some of the things mentioned in the ancient teachings of Buddhism are tinged with myth or superstition. Some individuals even consider it to be an outdated, truly ancient, and completely obsolete way of thinking. That's precisely why sometimes it's very necessary for us to carefully consider and utilize the insightful evaluations of religion provided by certain distinguished scientists, taking into account their profound understanding and extensive personal experiences with Buddhism, including some of the responses they have in daily life, and so on, to serve as evidence. This is just one particular method. From an ultimate perspective, I've never really thought about it. Wow, because scientists actually just say so. Therefore, Buddhism must be correct. I've never truly thought that. But sometimes, however, as I just mentioned, I have no other choice. Because in today's era, people have a particularly strong faith in science. What has society become now? So-called science has already become a religion for many people today. Although scientists themselves believe, or scientific workers themselves have never explicitly claimed that science is a religion, especially in today's modern society, it has already become the religion people trust the most. Precisely because of this, Many people, including those who are running businesses and various enterprises, and even those who are truly promoting their own unique cultural philosophies, often use the very name of science, or indeed act in the name of science and its fundamental principles, to promote their own particular ideas and perspectives. Those of us who are here might genuinely wonder, what is science really like in actual practice? In fact, up to this very day, our modern science has already profoundly become a kind of deeply ingrained and widely accepted religion. This particular kind of scientific religion certainly has its advantages and disadvantages. So, what exactly are its advantages? Because people in the 21st century, all people believe in this scientific religion. In reality, many people truly recognize the profound truth. To a certain extent, science has indeed provided humanity with significant advancements and understanding, with an unprecedented contribution in helping us escape difficulties and move toward a material paradise. It has truly made contributions like never before seen. Today, whether it is our modern means of transportation, advanced information tools, or the many convenient and enjoyable conveniences we all enjoy, where do they come from? From the power of science. That's why our daily travel, our everyday lives are now extremely convenient in every aspect. These are indeed the truly significant benefits that science has brought to us. But behind all of this remarkable scientific progress, as we continuously deepen our understanding of the material world, we also discover that there are many superstitious aspects within science. This is called pseudoscience. So what is pseudoscience? In fact, it refers to things that have not been discovered at all, yet are categorically denied. For example, some branches of science today dismiss all traditional and ancient religions, as well as anything that doesn't particularly align with their own established way of thinking, labeling them all as mere superstition or entirely unscientific, and consequently excluding them entirely from consideration. This is a fundamental flaw of science. Science is merely a judgment of objective matter, an analysis of the observable, objective world. It does not adequately address the more profoundly important existence of our subjective consciousness, the profound perception of consciousness, the immense power of consciousness, the intricate function of consciousness. These are extremely powerful. Yet, no matter how much our current science truly develops at present in any academy of sciences, the many extensive studies conducted on the intricate nature of human consciousness are still not particularly thorough or comprehensively conclusive. After all, it is widely known that when a person is genuinely kind-hearted, truly possesses profound compassion, deep wisdom, and an exceptionally great degree of patience, but when we try to scientifically prove it with various scientific instruments, it is very difficult to accurately detect our internal mental state. If a person has a very bad character, is filled with anger, jealousy, and arrogance, and these are extremely intense. When we actually observe with instruments at most, we might find that this person has a quite bad temper or a very irregular heartbeat. Other than that, the most subtle psychological states cannot be detected by science as of yet up to this point in time. Moreover, there are also certain differences among scientific inventors, because as everyone universally knows, scientific inventions sometimes are direct manifestations of pure greed. Some individuals invent things for the sake of their own personal cultural legacy, often driven by self-inflation and an insatiable desire. And some of their inventions only benefit themselves while harming others. Some inventions are created under the influence of anger, such as the invention of atomic bombs, explosives, and nuclear weapons, including many truly terrifying and potentially destructive devices that exist in our modern world. Some time ago, I distinctly recall seeing on Weibo, a popular Chinese social media platform, that some esteemed scholars had posted, stating that the current generation of nuclear power plants are really likely to have nuclear leaks in about 100 years. If a nuclear leak really happens, people living within the 100 years won't be harmed. And we can use electricity very conveniently. But people 100 years from now will face something terrifying and pitiful. But perhaps many inventors only pay attention to our current way of life and don't really care about other aspects. Also, some aspects of science may actually reflect ignorance. What kind of ignorance, you might ask? It's that we believe we can constantly exploit our planet's natural resources, driven by sheer greed, insatiable desire, or profound ignorance. This critically includes some significant scientific research and extensive studies, all of which are intimately related to our current delicate ecological balance, as well as concepts like environmental protection, energy saving, and conservation. When these are completely and truly at odds, humanity, driven by ignorance, does everything possible by any means necessary to unearth valuable treasures and exploit precious resources, recklessly destroying our very own human habitat. We constantly produce countless products that we ourselves truly don't even need, and develop complex, intricate machines, so that in the end, our future generations, many of our descendants, will be unable to survive, severely lacking vital resources. And ultimately, what kind of beings will they become? This is something everyone can clearly see. Therefore, all of us present here should also consider this. On one hand, we have great faith in science, and I too believe in science. This includes the many marvelous insights science has brought us today, which truly leave people in awe. So I think that people of our generation, sometimes people too much trust in science. Perhaps science may deceive us, or perhaps science will bring us endless benefits, but all of this requires wisdom. Many people I have heard just a few short years ago were indeed saying that, including some celebrities and famous personalities, and wealthy individuals driven by a strong desire to actively fight the natural process of aging and effectively avoid growing old, would undergo various physical treatments, including precise injections of advanced anti-aging drugs. It was said that there was something called sheep placenta extract. Many people, after receiving these injections, found that the wrinkles on their faces became fewer and they wouldn't age. And people claimed that their bodies were getting better and better. But later, many scientists in the health department in Switzerland discovered that, in fact, this claim was unfounded. Switzerland used a large amount of resources to observe and investigate this. In reality, this drug did not truly have an anti-aging effect. It did not actually produce any real, tangible results. It even caused many significant psychological issues for people, such as emotional restlessness, and introduced various harmful allergens into the body, among other concerning things. So now, in this current era of pervasive advertising, and in this rapidly expanding age of information explosion, we sometimes hear claims that something is truly very scientific, and that it is widely recognized by reputable scientists, or that it is officially approved by some specific testing department, or that it possesses a certain valuable patent. At times like this, we tend to think, wow, science can truly guarantee a person's mind and body with 100% certainty and reliability. But sometimes, perhaps because we place too much trust in its immense capabilities and unwavering authority, behind it, there are influential businessmen, dedicated agents, and many other people working closely together, using sophisticated scientific methods to subtly deceive people. In fact, this is quite common. Some people say you Buddhists use Buddhism as a convenient cover, and that there are indeed many unfortunate cases of deception and fraudulent activities occurring frequently within society. I also readily admit that truly, in this contemporary era of extreme material abundance and rapid technological advancement, some people are not Tibetan Buddhists at all, but they use the name of Tibetan Buddhism to deceive many followers. Some of them are actually not even from our Buddhist Institute at all, in fact, but claim, I am from Larungar Five Sciences Buddhist Institute. Some even go to the institute just to take a photo, or take a picture with a certain lama, and then go to the Han regions to deceive people as well. I've also noticed such phenomena in the scientific community, and there are actually a lot of them. Some people issue certificates, some make fake advertisements, and some produce fake promotional videos, adding the names of many scientists to them, or attaching endorsements and certificates from scientific appraisal departments. Such phenomena are very common throughout the entire world. So, whether it's religious practitioners or dedicated scientists, If anyone brings unhealthy factors to the body and mind of humanity, causing various unhealthy and detrimental factors to emerge, then that is unequivocally pseudoscience and a form of pseudo-Buddhism. What we genuinely and urgently need now is genuine science and true wisdom. If it is indeed true wisdom, then I believe it can certainly be accurately characterized and referred to as science. Wouldn't you agree? Actually, the word science nowadays, people have a considerable amount of faith and belief in it. It truly seems like in places where religion is very prevalent and widely practiced, religion has already become a kind of authority. It seems that science now, among us humans, wants to occupy an authoritative position. It rules the world in its own name. This is something many of us need to reflect on and think deeply about. So, what exactly am I going to be talking to you about today? In fact, within the realm of Buddhist studies, there are actually some aspects that are combined with the spirit of science. In this particular regard, many of you present here today are truly high-level and distinguished individuals. I've heard that many people gathered here today are indeed elite figures, the very backbone of our society, exceptionally talented, profoundly wise, and genuinely compassionate. And you also possess a considerable amount of valuable social experience and significant career achievements. Indeed, there are some truly remarkable and very successful individuals among you. As genuinely successful individuals, where exactly does the true and profound definition of success truly lie, and how can it be comprehensively understood? Since you have already achieved success, what should you do next? I think this is very, very important. Right now, many people still haven't quite figured out the ultimate goal of their own life. Logically speaking, when a person reaches their 40s or 50s, they must have a goal in life. For many of us, our life goals are simply to support ourselves, start a family and a career, or just to have money. Is that really enough? In actual fact, this only truly represents the values and perspectives of some individuals. In my considered view, truly successful people are not necessarily those who can just adequately support themselves and merely live independently on their own. That doesn't necessarily mean real success. Even if someone is wealthy, I don't think that alone means they are truly successful. Just being good-looking doesn't necessarily mean success either. So what is true success? It's about the impact we have on the people around us, those in our community, and on society as a whole. To put it on a larger scale, it's about benefiting the earth and all living beings on it. If we can bring direct or indirect benefits to all of them, then that is what genuinely makes someone truly successful. From a very young age, we have consistently had certain fundamental educational concepts instilled deeply within us. Especially within traditional culture, there are significant Confucian educational values present. There are also educational concepts from Buddhism. If we consider the educational concepts in Buddhism, especially the ideals of Mahayana Buddhism, they are truly excellent. Why is that? Because your existence in this world is not just for your own personal survival. The greatest and most profound value of human life is that we are able to help and assist others. Many people mistakenly think that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas found in temples are incredibly compassionate and benevolent. In reality, the Buddha statues themselves are merely symbolic representations of the true Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. They are not the Buddhas or Bodhisattvas. The true Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are actually our own hearts. What is a Bodhisattva? The profound meaning of Bodhisattva is someone who courageously and compassionately benefits all sentient beings through their selfless actions. The term bodhisattva in Sanskrit, refers to someone who, when it comes to benefiting sentient beings, will never be timid or cowardly. Only such a person is truly a bodhisattva. In Chinese Buddhism, many people believe that Buddhas and Bodhisattvas are those whom we worship in temples. That is what they consider Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. But in reality, in essence, every entrepreneur, every successful person present here can actually become a true bodhisattva. If you possess an altruistic heart, extending towards your own valued employees, towards your cherished clients, and indeed towards all the individuals around you who are meaningfully connected to you, then you should absolutely do everything within your power. Always thinking about their physical and mental suffering, I truly want to use my wisdom and my abilities, my wealth and my talents, and all my various resources to genuinely help them in every possible way. Then, in fact, I am truly carrying out the great and noble deeds of a Mahayana Bodhisattva. If I do not have such a mindset, then I just spend all my day reciting my Om Mani Padme Hum or Namo Amitabha. then I am just a Hinayana Buddhist. If I truly possess some renunciation, perhaps I might attain liberation from samsara. But a true Buddhist is actually someone who dedicates their life to benefiting all sentient beings, striving for their well-being and liberation from suffering. If you compare this profound philosophy with the principles of Confucianism, which is deeply embedded in our rich and traditional culture, indeed, there are some noticeable and significant differences. I have extensively read a great deal about the profound principles of Confucian culture. It profoundly teaches one to cultivate a greater sense of filial piety, to possess more inherent dignity, and to acquire profound wisdom, and to be responsible to one's family, relatives, and friends. This is a kind of education about personal character. Confucian culture is very good in this regard. But if you truly try to expand this to the entire scope of humanity, many of its ideas become rather narrow. If you further expand this to include all sentient beings, even down to the very smallest ants and tiny little insects on Earth, all the smallest living beings, as well as the great snow lions and elephants and so on, both the great and the small sentient beings, if I am to treat all of them with a heart of compassion, to protect them, help them, and support them. This is something that cannot be found in Confucian culture. So, in this day and age, many of us, including a significant number of entrepreneurs and truly successful individuals, can be clearly seen through their very own words and their actions. Gradually and gradually, to be thinking about what? Thinking about their own success, their own wealth, and most importantly, about protecting themselves. Of course, as ordinary people, we are just simply trying to live. It's impossible for us to always only take care of others. There are certain difficulties in that. But what about our true and deeply held values, our actual position in life, our overall direction, and our ultimate goals in life? What exactly are they really? Our goal is not necessarily just to get by in life. If it's only about getting by in life, then it's not necessarily only us, the so-called most intelligent beings, humans, who can do that. In fact, cows, sheep, horses, and pigs in this world, when they wake up in the morning, they also hustle for their own survival. At night they rest as well. They live simply for eating grass and drinking water, such a simple life. They also think about it. They also have thoughts. So I think for many of us, especially people living in bustling cities nowadays, when it comes to their own personal survival, there isn't really very much to worry about at all, actually. More often, people are thinking about their descendants, and also about their beloved families. They always want to achieve even more, to grow significantly bigger and expand their reach. But in reality, this drive to expand is also a kind of greed, a desire. Sometimes we truly need to exercise considerable restraint. Next, I very much want to talk to you about the profound wisdom of Buddhism and the spirit of science. There are a few areas where we need to make comparisons. First of all, something that is also absolutely indispensable in the true scientific spirit is that so-called science possesses a very rigorous, precise, and indeed highly logical way of thinking and reasoning. It only acknowledges objective things and does not recognize so-called delusions, subjectivity, consciousness, and so on. This is also acceptable. In this regard, there is something very similar in Buddhism. In Buddhism, it is called the Four Reliances. Rely on the Dharma, not on the person. Rely on the true meaning, not on the mere words. Rely on profound wisdom, not on discriminating mind. Rely on definitive meaning, not on provisional meaning. These are specialized Buddhist terms and concepts. But if we carefully observe them as a scientific spirit, then I think they are also very good. First, let's talk about relying on the Dharma and not on the person themselves. The so-called Dharma here refers to truth, reality, the true nature of things. From the perspective of scientific spirit, we should rely on truth, not on authority. In fact, strictly speaking, science only understands some objective facts and relies on objective facts. It should not rely on the subjective thoughts of individuals. But sometimes science also tends to blindly worship certain authorities. For example, consider what Albert Einstein said, what Isaac Newton said, what René Descartes said, what Robert Brown said. This is indeed a kind of profound reliance on established authority, because after all, even Albert Einstein was ultimately just an ordinary human being. Some of his thoughts, some of his viewpoints were subsequently and widely overturned by a great many people. So just because he said something doesn't mean it's 100% correct. In this case, we believe that we should solely rely on truth rather than authority. Relying on the Dharma, not on the person. You could put it that way. In Buddhism, what do we rely on? What we rely on is the objective, true meaning. We don't necessarily need to rely on a particular person simply because he is a well-known celebrity, or just because he possesses significant wealth, or perhaps because he holds a high social status. That kind of reliance is truly unreasonable. In the context of Buddhism, including what Shakyamuni Buddha himself said, do you remember? How did Shakyamuni Buddha put it? He said that you should always strive to be like refining pure gold, and use wisdom to examine things repeatedly. If you find it reasonable, then accept it. If you don't find it reasonable, don't accept it. You absolutely should not accept it simply out of respect for me, the Buddha, your teacher and guide. This applies to both monastics and lay people alike. Everyone should rely on the truth, on correct thinking. Don't just rely on the ideas of a particular person. As long as you think it's an objective truth, if it makes sense, accept it. If it doesn't, don't. This is one aspect of the teaching. Next is what's called relying on the meaning, not the words. There are two kinds of truth, its essence and its appearance. These two kinds. We should rely on the meaning, not just the words. Because some aspects of truth are often expressed through the medium of language, it is, and language can sometimes exaggerate. But some things truly have the essential, inherent nature of truth. This profoundly means that when you rely on truth, you should indeed rely on the essential core part of truth, not just its mere appearance. Some appearances, in fact, change along with people's evolving consciousness and the flow of history, as well as with diverse cultures and various ways of thinking. Therefore, what we truly need is the real and authentic substance. When we need to carefully discern such important content, people have a certain, what should we call it? The very first one that we have just mentioned and discussed can be accurately called the spirit of truth. Following that, the essential spirit, which is fundamentally important, is also undeniably the scientific spirit. The third essential aspect is the spirit of awakening. So what exactly is this spirit of awakening? It fundamentally means that when we are discerning and evaluating essential issues, those individuals with a higher level of awareness are consistently able to make the most appropriate and correct choices, while those with a much lower level of awareness often make the completely wrong choices. So we should rely only on the spirit of awakening and not depend on discriminative wisdom or the mind that makes distinctions. We know that many scientific inventions today, in fact, these scientists possess a certain awakened wisdom. We fully acknowledge this important point. Relying on wisdom rather than on mere consciousness is very important. Are all the things we believe ourselves to be true actually the truth? Not necessarily. For those individuals with a higher level of awareness, their inherent truth is truly reliable. Lastly, even among the wisdoms of awakening, there are different levels. This is called the pinnacle spirit. What is it? It means relying on the ultimate meaning, not on the provisional meaning. So, what is the ultimate meaning? The so-called ultimate meaning is the highest level of spirit, because our spiritual dimension also has lower, intermediate, and top levels. For example, our courses. There are elementary school courses, kindergarten courses, and university courses. Within university courses, there are Western courses as well as courses in the Eastern style. Among these courses, some of these are created by highly esteemed top scholars, and these are generally considered the most reliable. Conversely, some are set by individuals who are not considered top thinkers. What we call the ultimate meaning is determined by a top-level individual. Therefore, in this context, what we call provisional or non-ultimate meanings, those that are not ultimate, there are also other ideas and other intentions. All these ideas are temporarily set aside. What is this concept called? In Buddhism, it is widely known as the Four Reliances. I believe that in the scientific community, it can be called the Four Spirits. So, what are the Four Spirits? As previously mentioned, it is indeed the profound scientific spirit of diligently seeking truth, the essential scientific spirit of truly seeking the very essence, the illuminating scientific spirit of genuinely seeking enlightenment, and the ultimate scientific spirit of striving for the absolute pinnacle. If these four scientific spirits are applied in scientific research, this should be truly the most perfect and indeed the very most correct approach. Similarly, this kind of principle is called the concept of relying on the Dharma and not on the person in the Buddhist tradition. Rely on the meaning, not on the words. Rely on the definitive meaning, not on the provisional meaning. Rely on wisdom, not on discriminative consciousness. In the Nirvana Sutra of Shakyamuni Buddha, there is a special chapter called the Chapter of the Four Reliances, which contains this content. Compared with the rigorous wisdom of modern science, I believe there are many similarities. This is just one aspect of the content. Also, I truly believe that the 6 paramitas taught in Buddhism are fundamentally as the same as the science. From the scientific concepts or from the business, we can indeed embody these 6 essential kinds of spirit. I can also make a simple comparison. First, the very first principle is the concept of generosity. This is the wisdom of generosity. In fact, generosity is truly a spirit of giving and selfless contribution. The second essential quality is morality, or ethical discipline. Ethical discipline is fundamentally a spirit of moral conduct and uprightness. The third crucial aspect is the paramita of patience. What exactly does this profound concept mean? It refers to a profound spirit of unwavering resilience, a kind of deep-seated and enduring tenacity. The fourth essential quality is what we meticulously call diligence. Diligence is fundamentally a powerful spirit of consistent and dedicated hard work. The fifth crucial aspect is Zen meditation, which is a profound and unifying kind of mental cohesion. Our thoughts need to be focused and concentrated. As a group, we all possess a spirit of cohesion. Wisdom, everyone is familiar with it. Although worldly wisdom and transcendental wisdom are different, we all truly understand the profound spirit of wisdom. Therefore, I would also like to briefly analyze these 6 distinct kinds of spirit. Science also needs these 6 spirits. I think for scientists, for anyone, is the spirit of giving necessary? Yes. Is the spirit of morality necessary? Yes. Is a resilient spirit necessary? Is the spirit of diligence, focus, and wisdom necessary? I think if we talk about the 6 paramitas, the perfections of a bodhisattva, many people wonder, what is paramita? They think of eating some pineapples and feel just a little bit of resistance. But if we talk about these 6 kinds of spirit, maybe many people would find them worth considering, especially many of you who are in the secular world. Truly working for society, first and foremost, the act of giving is profoundly important. When we generously give to others, I once had read the incredibly popular best-selling book in America, which was famously called The Greatest Money-Making Secret in History. What exactly does this particular book primarily talk about? It says that ultimately, the easiest and most effective way for us to genuinely make money is to truly help others, to generously give to others. Gradually, we ourselves will also receive something in return. We will truly receive significant rewards and substantial benefits. This is a form of giving. In fact, giving may seem on the surface as if once we give something away, we might not get anything ourselves. But in reality, whether it's in terms of wealth or spirit, the more we generously give to others, the more abundant external resources will gradually and naturally come flowing back to us. Consider, for instance, the renowned Rockefeller family in America. I distinctly remember reading in his comprehensive and insightful biography, which detailed his life and philanthropic endeavors, that when he was around in his 50s, his whole body was failing. He broke down physically. Later, some people spoke to him saying, "From now on, you should make some necessary adjustments." Then he made 2 decisions. The first decision was that from then on, he would no longer always focus on making money as his main goal. If he kept on doing that, he truly thought he might age even more rapidly, and his overall health would deteriorate even more quickly. From that very point on, he started chatting, singing, and drinking coffee, and began to live a more leisurely life. The second decision was that in his family, as the oil tycoon, he would use most of his wealth to help others. From that time on, he began to fund the University of Chicago and established his own foundation. Later, his significant wealth continued to grow day by day. Indeed, even now, his family has reached the 6th generation. Generally speaking, we commonly say that wealth does not typically last beyond 3 generations. This is a common saying among Chinese people, but judging from his family and his spirit of giving, even until now. Just a while ago, I read a book which included many wealthy and prominent American families, including Bill Gates and many other such influential families. Among the significant of these families, his is still prominently there. In the last century, he was indeed the richest man in the world. So sometimes we may not necessarily want to become like him, but many of us might not fully realize that if I give to others, how will I enjoy things myself? Or what if I use everything up? But in fact, as much as possible, if we can truly give some spiritual wealth and enrichment, then I will give them. In Buddhism, this is called Dharma giving. What is Dharma giving? When the people around us don't understand the truth, we should try our best to give it to them. This is even more important than material giving. There is also something very important called material giving. As for this material giving, many of you here are indeed bosses or managers, and you certainly have a certain position and authority. At this time, I think it's very important to genuinely care for the people around you, those who work with you. Once a person becomes truly successful, they often don't fully understand the situations of many people around them, even things as small as their actual salaries, the benefits they receive, or the significant difficulties they face in their daily lives. For someone who is genuinely successful, paying attention to these important aspects are very crucial to acknowledge. So what about some people nowadays? The individuals around them, those who truly rely on their support, are actually quite pitiful because after all, they depend entirely on their meager salaries and the money they earn just to barely get by in their daily lives. However, as a prominent big boss or someone in a very high position within upper management, they simply cannot notice these subtle internal issues at all. Only when he is truly in that specific position himself will he fully realize that, in actual fact, there are certain distinct differences between people. So, when someone is in a high and important position, they truly need to carefully analyze each and every person's life. What it means that even the smallest details determine absolutely everything. Actually, when we say details determine everything, it doesn't mean you have to consider every little thing like eating, drinking, and daily routines, but you do need to pay attention to the most crucial issues, especially for a business, those key matters that affect its survival and existence. You should also try your best to take care of each person's basic work, compensation, and their difficulties and hardships. If you truly have limited time and energy in all aspects, then you should also arrange for some relevant people to regularly show care for others. On the surface, it may seem like caring for others is just being nice to them, but this kind of insight and strength actually comes back to benefit yourself. The more you treat others well, over time, others will treat you better and better as well. This is a giving. If I only appear to be nice to others on the surface, but am actually not good to them, then eventually the consequences I receive will be the same. So here, I want to talk about the first point, which is giving. Generosity is very important. Everyone here, whether you have money or certain intellectual abilities, should often share them with others. This is called the spirit of giving, and it is also a scientific spirit. The second crucial point is that everyone present here should possess a fundamental moral baseline. For example, as an entrepreneur, at the very least, one should absolutely have a strong conscience and principles that must never be violated. Nowadays, many companies unfortunately lack these essential moral standards, and what happens then? Numerous issues frequently arise in critical areas such as food safety and overall dietary health. When I went to Australia and the United States, many overseas students told me they didn't want to come back. I asked them, why don't you want to come back? They said it's because they're afraid of the smog and afraid that the food isn't healthy. Even though life abroad is tough, at least the food is healthier. I'd rather live a long life, so I'd rather endure hardships overseas. Some of them are actually suffering a great deal, but for their overall health, they consciously choose this particular path. Because in our society today, there are indeed many unhealthy factors present in various aspects. At times like this, every entrepreneur truly needs to consider the much bigger picture, to thoughtfully think about nature, the environment, and the collective health of humanity as a whole. We absolutely have to keep these vital things in mind. From an individual's perspective, as an entrepreneur and as a truly successful person, you should at the very least have a basic sense of morality. You absolutely don't kill, and you certainly don't steal. In Buddhism, we talk about the 10 unwholesome actions, which are actually very good and essential rules. You truly don't lie, you certainly don't deceive, you really shouldn't be overly greedy, and you absolutely shouldn't be excessively angry or cruel. These are the basic, fundamental disciplines for being a decent person. This is what we call the absolute baseline for humanity. This is moral integrity. No matter who we are, whether we're in schools or scientific researchers or even religious figures, everyone truly needs to strive to be a good person. We may not be able to be absolutely perfect, but at the very least, we should aim for more 80%. This is the second important point. The third crucial point is what I just emphatically mentioned. We truly need to cultivate a resilient spirit. In today's increasingly complex world, we inevitably have to face many significant challenges. At home, for instance, there may frequently be many people arguing vociferously with you, or you might unfortunately be scolded every single day for absolutely no discernible reason. Some family members can indeed be very strange. They might unfairly blame you for things you genuinely didn't do, constantly and relentlessly accusing you of this or that particular issue. In these trying situations, we profoundly need to exercise immense patience and foster a strong, enduring, and truly resilient spirit. Some people and some businesses find it exhausting to exist in this world. There are many policies and pressures from above, and there are reactions from the public below. In these situations, we also need to practice patience. At times like these, no matter who all of us are, as long as we live in this vast world, we all face various kinds of pressure. It can feel as if all the difficulties and troubles are focused on you, all directed at you. But in these moments, we must remain mentally strong at our core. In fact, when a person's mind is strong, many external things cannot disturb you. If your mind is truly strong and resilient, even if someone were to insult you, you could happily treat it just like a rainy day. You would simply see it as a performance or a passing show. Others might be loudly crying and perhaps even cursing at you with great intensity. And yet you could calmly think to yourself, wow, they are really putting on quite a good show indeed. This is perhaps the profound relationship of our mental state and inner fortitude. If you look at some of the powerful Vajra songs composed by great masters in the rich tradition of Tibetan Buddhism, you will notice that no matter what challenging environment or difficult circumstances they find themselves in, they never lose their profound mindfulness or inner peace. They face everything with immense joy and a deep sense of contentment. Sometimes, even when our physical bodies are extremely tired and weary, if our minds are strong and unwavering, we don't actually feel exhausted or drained. So this is a kind of inherent strength, a profound kind of forbearance and enduring patience. Forbearance is very important. Your true heart, your unwavering conviction should not be disturbed. This is needed not only in life, but also for anyone working, including scientific researchers. I've seen documentaries about some scientists, and actually they suffer a lot too. After all, they're just ordinary people. In the end, many scientists struggle with depression, including Einstein, Newton, Hemingway, and many others. It's really quite sad. In the end, some of them even committed suicide because they just couldn't cope anymore. In fact, for truly practitioners and profoundly wise people, all kinds of external noises are treated as pleasant sounds or beautiful surroundings. In Zen, we say bright heart is not destroyed, meaning that bright heart itself simply cannot be broken or eradicated. In Vajrayana terms, it's called unshakable faith, meaning that true and genuine faith cannot be disturbed by others. It remains absolutely unwavering. When you act from this profound state every single day, no matter what challenges or events happen, you live happily and contentedly. This is the third important point. The fourth point is precisely what I just mentioned: diligence and unwavering perseverance. No matter what you undertake, whether it's running a business or diligently practicing cultivation, we all truly need to be diligent. Some people are especially lazy, always sleeping in, just sleeping and unable to wake up, sleeping excessively. They think this is a kind of meditation practice, believing their level of cultivation is quite good. Not only do they meditate at night, but they also meditate during the day. So these kinds of meditation masters, those of us who truly love to sleep, are called meditation masters, Zen masters who truly love meditation and entering samadhi. So many people are rather lazy. In fact, in our current society, for those who practice Buddhism, Diligence is indeed necessary. If you are not diligent, in this short life, you may study Buddhism for many years, but in the end achieve nothing, not even having read a single book. You may never have done the 5 preliminary practices in our Tibetan Buddhism, or recited Amitabha's secret mantra, and then leave this world in the end. That would be especially regrettable. From the perspective of worldly life, our lives must be disciplined. Whether it's day or night, everyone should have a passionate faith, a positive attitude toward work, and also toward family. I see that some people are especially lazy, but actually, some people, even at home, do everything, whether it's cooking, sweeping the floor, or anything else, with great ease and enthusiasm. I personally prefer people who are more lively and energetic, because if you're too lazy, what can you really accomplish? Especially in places such as Tibet, some men tend to be rather lazier, while women are often more energetic. In Han regions, there are also different situations and varying circumstances. No matter what, we sincerely hope that when people engage in housework or work, they do it with great energy, that is to say, with diligence and dedication. If a person wants to engage in spiritual practice, they also need to be energetic. This kind of diligence and effort is actually closely related to the results you achieve. I once wrote a book called Achieve by Doing, meaning that if you don't take action, you won't gain anything. Some people are especially lazy. They don't want to do anything themselves, but they really want to get results. If you don't practice properly but still hope to achieve realization in the end, that's going to be quite difficult. Now, the 5th point is Zen meditation. As I mentioned earlier, meditation is a kind of focused mind. What does this mean? If our minds are not focused, then no matter what we do, nothing will work out. From the perspective of Buddhism's transcendent spirit, when faith becomes calm, that is called the samatha. From a practical standpoint, many people here may not have a strong faith, but I sincerely hope that each and every one of you can spend a little bit of time every single day on settling your mind and practicing meditation. Nowadays, almost every prominent university in various Western countries actively promotes the practice of meditation, and such beneficial meditation helps to thoroughly purify both your physical body and your inner mind. Because our lives are very complicated every day, work is hectic and hard, and the pace of life is especially fast. In such an era, if we keep pushing ourselves to work and to do things non-stop, in the end, we will only exhaust our bodies and minds, becoming overwhelmed with suffering and pain. So instead, why not set aside some time each day, even amidst your busy schedule, to relax a little? There are 2 ways to relax like this. One way is to truly follow the method of meditation. For example, Steve Jobs, the renowned inventor of Apple, diligently practiced meditation every single day. Through consistent meditation, he successfully developed many remarkable new things, including innovative software and groundbreaking inventions. Although we may not possess the exact same profound mental power as he did, at the very least, we absolutely shouldn't allow our own lives to become restless and utterly chaotic. We certainly shouldn't let our lives fall into complete disorder. Instead, we should calmly settle our minds. At times like this, it's truly and profoundly necessary for us to, even if it's just a brief 5 minutes, 10 minutes, an hour, or perhaps 2 hours each and every day, consciously turn off your phone, put it on silent mode, and allow your mind to gently settle down, to truly let your heart become completely calm and tranquil. If you possess some valuable experience or extensive knowledge in the practice of meditation or any form of spiritual cultivation, then you can certainly utilize those established and effective methods to further cultivate yourself and your inner being. If you don't have this kind of knowledge, simply calming your mind and not thinking about anything is also a form of self-care, and it's very beneficial for your body. Because when our minds are especially restless, it actually has a harmful effect on many of the cells in our bodies. So, if we can maintain a state of inner peace, it is very meaningful for health preservation and cultivating the mind. So, I think this is a kind of focused mind, and it's something indispensable in our daily lives. Otherwise, if we're busy every day, always rushing around, and constantly have an arrogant mindset, then on the day we die, you may finally rest forever, but in fact, you never truly rested during your life. At that point, having such a long rest would be a bit of a pity. Finally, let me briefly talk to everyone about wisdom. Actually, the wisdom in Buddhism is quite different from scientific wisdom. As I mentioned earlier, scientific wisdom primarily studies the fundamental principles of the external material world around us, focusing on its observable phenomena and underlying mechanisms. However, the profound scientific wisdom found within the teachings of Buddhism actually concerns human beings themselves, encompassing our intricate thoughts and our various afflictions. Therefore, when we as humans genuinely need to resolve our deep-seated afflictions, it becomes exceedingly difficult to solely rely upon conventional science to effectively achieve this. That's why in many of our advanced scientific institutions and universities today, they only address knowledge related to the material world. But as for knowledge that deals with resolving inner afflictions and suffering, or education in this area, up to now, it simply doesn't exist. Although some universities do indeed have dedicated departments of religion or philosophy, even within those institutions, the study is not particularly detailed or comprehensive. So, I have always firmly believed that humanity today is truly missing the most crucial and fundamental kind of knowledge. What kind of essential knowledge is that? It is religious knowledge, or more specifically, Buddhist knowledge. When you study Buddhism, I am not asking you to follow Buddha here. Whether you study it or not has nothing to do with me. It's fine if you do, and fine if you don't. But there are some principles that I must make clear to you. Because if Buddhist knowledge truly does not enter into our daily lives, and we have absolutely no faith at all, then what does it truly feel like to live every single day without any spiritual faith whatsoever? It's as if in the midst of a dense confusion, people themselves don't even know why they are living. If you have some faith in religious wisdom, then you will realize that living in this world is not just about making money or establishing a family and career. In fact, there are many, many of your own thoughts that can be further refined and evolved. This also relates to your life while you are alive, to the moment you leave this world, and even to your observations about the next life, and so on. More importantly, when human wisdom truly reaches its highest and most profound level, we all help others and genuinely benefit all sentient beings. Benefiting all sentient beings is indeed the very most important part of this profound Buddhist wisdom. Yes, it is truly the most important part. So even if it's just a very small thing, we should always strive to help others, genuinely consider others, and truly bring hope to others. I distinctly remember there was once a prominent French president, I think a former French president, Jacques Chirac. He was quite tall, indeed, and once, when he was walking casually on the bustling street, there was a young child who persistently kept following him. Because he was a very famous and recognizable public figure, he naturally thought the child simply wanted his autograph. Later, when they subsequently asked the young child, it turned out he wasn't actually there for an autograph. It was simply that the weather was extremely hot and sweltering at that particular time. And since the French president was notably very tall, the child was cleverly using the president's substantial shadow to cool himself off. So the child persistently kept following the president. The president was very much pleased about this unexpected attention. And after he returned, he even thoughtfully wrote a speech, "May my body bring you shade." This speech manuscript became quite famously known. I had read it before in a translated version. Actually, in this story, even when he was just standing there, willingly letting others use his shadow to cool off, he did so gladly. On the surface, this truly seems like an amusing and entertaining story. But in actual fact, behind it lies a profound philosophy, a rich culture, and a comprehensive set of deeply held values. For many of us here, when we use our bodies to help others, that is, of course, the most meaningful thing, right? That is to say, we actively use our bodies, our words, and our thoughts to genuinely help others, so that when someone else's body is not well, we can provide support to them, whether it's in a hospital setting or elsewhere. We should always go and offer our assistance. If it becomes necessary, I will use my words to gently correct others when they say something inappropriate. If I choose to use my thoughts, I will gradually convey through other means to correct others' wrong views, fallacies, or negative thoughts. This is a way for us to practice altruism toward others by our bodies, words, and mind. If I don't have such an opportunity, as I just mentioned, I would do as the French president did. Although he may not be able to benefit others directly, he relies on the shadow of his own presence, on his teachings, or on other means. If we can bring significant benefit to others, I believe that human existence has value. We often think about how, in our society today, there are so many successful people. But what we don't fully see or acknowledge is that there are still so many poor and unfortunate people around us. As for these individuals, we humans basically don't care about them, don't remember them, or even try to comfort them. In that case, according to Mahayana Buddhism, we wouldn't be considered true bodhisattvas. According to the values of our secular world, if people in high positions in our society ignore the disadvantaged groups, it shows that their entire moral value system is also questionable. Therefore, I truly think that in today's modern era, where science is extremely prosperous and advanced, it is very important to possess the kind of analytical wisdom found in Buddhism. While possessing the analytical wisdom, it is even more important to have a sense of compassion and benefiting all sentient beings. If a person possesses both the keen and insightful wisdom of modern science to observe and truly understand the external world around them, and at the very same time the profound wisdom to genuinely care for our inner world and well-being, and even more importantly, if we truly have a mindset that deeply cares about all living species, including the natural environment, then this kind of people is truly rare and precious in our world. Therefore, I sincerely hope that many of the esteemed scientists and dedicated Buddhist practitioners present here today all truly share one common and profound goal. What exactly is that significant goal? First and foremost, we ourselves should purify our own inherent nature. At the same time, the profound wisdom and boundless compassion we should inherently possess are truly like the guiding path of our very lives, and we should also diligently undertake many meaningful actions that can genuinely help and benefit all sentient beings. Therefore, I sincerely hope that each and every one of us will wholeheartedly strive with great effort and dedication in this significant regard. All right, that's all I have to say.
Thank you for your insightful, compassionate, and humorously honest teaching.
Thank you very much. Thank you.